All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for The Mandalorian.
Season 1,
episode 2. Yes,
yep.
yes.
This dream hasn't yet ended, guys. This is still happening.
We are in real life right now. We have a Dave
pinched
Filoni,
myself,
Jon
but,
Favreau.
you know, I'm still here. Like, this is all still real.
Yes, yes. And
oh boy.
And the next episode is already out, so that's fantastic.
Yep.
We've got a lot to talk about in this one here. Just in the time that it's been since the first episode came out, I've now seen this episode 3 more times, and like, there's a lot that was in that first episode, y'all. A lot that was in there.
So good.
And we talked about how it was so like Western and atmospheric and stuff, but there were a lot of subtle things that I didn't give them as much credit for setting up the character of the Mandalorian.
Oh yeah.
One, that there was not only this kind of this dynamic of what he valued, but also this very cool juxtaposition between him and the Imperials that he met at the secret meeting of sorts.
Yeah, they are not well, let's just say there's some differences there, but then at the same time, the juxtaposition that these Imperials are not like regular Imperials, or at least they can't afford to be like regular Imperials now because
they can't
the
hide
Empire's gone.
Right, but they can't hide their true colors every once in a while.
Right, they might still have some very sinister motivations, but they need to kind of try and smooth things over a little bit.
But it comes off sometimes like your old racist aunt at the dinner table sometimes, where they're like, this Beskar that we totally got from the Jedi Purge when we pillaged the Jedi Temple and killed all those people, we are now like giving back to you to restore the natural order of things.
To ourselves for all this time. Here you go. We very much care that this is happening because
we're fans of the EU too.
Yeah, like it straight up feels like
we always want
like it's
Disney here.
Disney
we
being
much,
like yes.
We respect the EU and all that it is. I mean, Legends. I mean, the EU. Yes, and what it is. Yeah, that's why we're making this Mandalorian TV show.
Ever since the last Jedi Purge.
Yes. Many fans died to bring us this TV show.
Oh boy, but we're here.
We're here.
Episode 2.
We're here.
Oh, boy,
we have
boy.
Atmospheric fan service central combination all within the first episode with the with the Yoda species baby. Something that I feel like people are almost talking too much about when they're not freaking out as much about the fact that we still get this Mandalorian TV show. Maybe I missed that whole freaking out part there, and that already happened, and now it's like, this is a cool reveal.
Perpetual state for me.
But it is an exciting thing, and I think that based on rewatching the episode quite a few times, just because it's Star Wars, I think there's a much higher likelihood that he doesn't turn in the bounty.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on this because, okay, I still think he's going to try and turn it in. He's going to try and get the Beskar.
He wants that Beskar for sure.
Yeah, and you hardcore purists out there, right. The difference between it being Beskar as it is unforged into any kind of armor, it is Beskar at that point, but then when it becomes the armor, it is Beskar Gum.
Armor of Beskar,
Right, exactly. My Mandoad is not as good as it used to be.
And just so you know, for any of you that are wondering, Mando is not his actual name. When the dude called him Mando, that's was
shorthand.
Basically shorthand.
They're basically saying my bro,
Well, or it could also be considered kind of a slur potentially because he's just calling him Mando, but then at the same time, like, they wear their helmets all the time, and he clearly wasn't giving a name, so who knows?
It's Manda, not Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Bruh.
I mean, there's the Mando odd, and whatnot. But anyways, the point is, episode 2.
Episode 2.
Oh boy.
And let's just get right into it. All right, everyone, be sure to go check out the reaction portion of this video in the description below, and then come back here for the discussion. This show is amazing. I have spoken.
Yes. Yeah, indeed.
I have spoken.
I have spoken. This is just wonderful. Like,
it just feels so good to be in the Star Wars universe.
To really be in the Star Wars universe again. Made by fans for fans. Like, from having the Jawas. Like, okay. having the main conflict be, yeah, you got it. You didn't have anyone to leave behind watch the ship, though, did ya?
No, you have no crew, so no perception checks
yourself.
to defend against random encounters. So
your ship has been gutted,
just
right?
Absolutely gutted.
Because, okay, it's... All right, one of the things that I've wondered about the whole idea of having a show for The Mandalorian, right?
Yeah.
How do you have conflict and have The Mandalorian really struggle in ways that don't basically make him just seem like he doesn't know what he's doing? Right, you don't want to make him seem incompetent. You want to make him seem just still struggle, right?
Yeah.
So things like, for instance, needing to ride the creatures in the previous episode, right? That was kind of silly and ridiculous to see him sort of like getting thrown around and stuff.
Yeah, it felt very kind of TV kids kind of stuff there, and it's like, okay, cool, but then it's about
it's showing a situation where he's out of his element. His element is combat, and when he fights, he's a badass, right? And it's great. But there are still situations where, because he's by himself and because he might get into certain situations that he's not familiar with, he has a hard time, right?
Right.
And the Jawas are a perfect way to do that because they're so adorable.
Yes. Even in combat, though, we saw him being easily outclassed by the IG droid as being a very, devastating force. And he was like, okay, I kill one for every 4 that thing kills, So that in and of itself. But when he goes, back to his ship and he's got the kid and he dealt with the Trandoshans. The Trandoshans, we see over and over and over again in this show how much his armor saves his life constantly. How much more so it probably would if all of his armor was Beskar Gam. So that's a big deal. Now, we end up in the situation where we have him just getting random encountered, and essentially we get the filler episode. The episode of where, no, there's no plot. You have to take 2 steps backward in order to take,
in order to get back to right where you were.
Right, in order to take 3 steps forward, basically. So when he deals with the Jawas and everything like that, he, catches them in the act, and he starts blasting. So anyway, I started blasting. Not even thinking at all about how he could deal with this here. We are already seeing how his general approach to, hey, you're messing with my stuff. You're messing with mine.
And they seriously did a number on his ship by the time he showed up.
Yeah. But I love that his whole thing is this is part of his problem because he has no kind of partner that's kind of his complementary kind of partner in this whole thing.
He has a one-trick solution to pretty much everything.
I started blasting, and then
I have many different options for how I go about doing that.
And we see him actually taking on the full crew of them, and it's rather well. And while there's a little bit of a trend I'm starting to see here, we see the Salacious Crumb species, and now the Jawas, basically all the little species in Star Wars getting their moment to shine, but also getting absolutely just destroyed by bigger species. The first episode, they were roasting that guy on a spit, and the one in the cage is like, oh no, this is my lot in life. And then in this one, we're seeing Jawas getting vaporized by a disruptor rifle.
This is, okay.
Or disruptor, I guess, power cells or ammo or what have you that he was putting into it.
I gotta say, this is actually another form of fan service.
It is.
Because the thing is, there are so many, whether you're talking about Star Wars games or whatever, where there are creative ways to dispose of Jawas.
We've had force punting them.
Shocking them with lightning and then force punting them
in the Force Unleashed.
Remember that Canadian stormtrooper,
yes.
short where they're like, no, don't worry, I got him. Yep,
troops. I remember troops.
Yeah. Lining up the shot and
the head's exploding in fire.
Right.
There's this weird kind of sadistic pleasure that Star Wars fans, I feel like, get in offing Jawas, because while they're the most adorably cute and yet somewhat creepy things, they also have zero regard for personal space, for what's theirs versus what's not theirs. They are gremlins coming in and just steal all your stuff.
Make your life hell, right? And then and the thing is, it also has this catharsis because
those Jawas, disgusting creatures.
Right. But then there's also this catharsis that, from the perspective of this is a tabletop RPG with single player, all that stuff.
Right.
The player's like, all right, I got the thing, awesome. And then for the DM special mission, they get back. And then they just look across the table at the DM, and the DM's just like,
and he's like, oh, okay, that's fine. At least I'll probably have a bunch of my weapons.
He
goes into the
Well, yeah, and they're just like, all right, fine, I'm gonna enjoy this. Just starts blowing them away.
He's like, oh yeah, you're killing them, but they're running for the hills.
Tons of them, yeah.
Yeah, and they're getting into their sandcrawler. I love their whole little like walkie-talkie. Oh, he's on the side. This one there, and the ones at the front like, okay, I got it.
The coordination from everything, and actually getting to see inside the sandcrawler. Like,
I mean, we've seen inside the sandcrawler for sure, but the main thing was getting to see it move. Like, yeah, when R2 and C-3PO are inside, yeah, we get to see inside.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
But the main thing I think was more just getting to see it move seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're not casually being like, doo-doo-doo, we're just going across the desert. They're like, full steam ahead, everything just go,
Chewing
go, go.
Up the landscape.
Yeah.
And the little ports that they open up.
Chucking crap at him, just being like,
little stun sticks and like everything. That was just...
It was amazing.
That was great. I feel like this was the equivalent of when your DM's like, okay, how far can I take a group of kobolds? Like how frustrating can I make a group of kobolds be when your party's like level 5 or level 7, right? And kobolds should be nothing, but they're just like, but I'm gonna get creative here.
Right. So we end up dealing with the fact that they beat him. I loved the comedy this episode of the physical bit. If he gets up there and they all just raise their weapons and just rapid fire stun guns, and he just shocks falls over. Hilarious. I am surprised that he's not somewhat more injured from that fall, but whatever. Yeah, it's mud or what have you. When he gets to the guy and he's like, yeah, I have to deal with this problem, and he's like, oh no, don't worry, we'll trade with the Jawas. My heart got like full right there, because this guy is basically the peacekeeper, kind of like he wants everything to be calm, but he does so much for this guy, despite the fact that he's probably correctly assuming that, yeah, you might have been a bit aggressive towards these Jawas, especially when he shows up and once they see him, they're all like, hey, what's that guy doing with you? Put down his guns.
Yep.
They might have passed along a little bit of info to him of being like, hey, that guy like killed like 7 of us already.
I mean, he was very open about it. He's like, yeah, I disintegrated a few of them.
Yeah. But then we're like, oh, we're gonna actually talk with the Jawas in a serious way. I loved the interactions between Lars and Luke and the Jawas when they're all like, like, oh yeah, this one. Yeah,
what I really need is a droid who understands the binary language of moisture evaporators. I know that I was talking to C-3PO. But,
yeah, that's true. But I just love the idea of them like doing some kind of scummy deal, being like, hey, this is some like secondhand R5 unit. Let's get rid of it. Bad motivator. Hey, what are you trying to pull? I don't know. Bad motivator.
No.
I mean, maybe the restraining bolt like interacted weirdly with the motivator. I don't know. It's yours. But we've never actually seen Jawas talk with subtitles to get understanding of what they're saying. We have to just assume based on how the humans respond.
Like, the only way this Jawa interaction could have been more fan servicey is if the IG droid was still alive and made some 2% probability, he's looking for trouble and wishes to be blasted master. Like, that
would be some deep level reference right there. I don't know if they would even allow
definitely
Filoni to get away with that.
But that's the level of just how wonderful everything about this was.
Because, it was extremely fan servicey.
It was extremely fan servicey, and yet there was so much substance to it, right?
Yeah.
Because that you have the dichotomy still of this Ugnaught guy and our main character, right? The main character, he has his guns, right? And that's how he solves his problems.
It's part of my religion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's in some ways that's a part of his snarky humor.
Yeah, like he's being sarcastic.
Mandalorians don't have religion surrounding that kind of stuff. It's just like, no, this is my way of life.
Right.
He's like, I need to communicate to this guy how important it is. Yeah, it's basically my religion.
Yeah, he's like, and about Mandalorians, like, we're all about this, and from the perspective of people on the outside, it's just that's their religion. It's the armor. They never take off the helmet, and they usually have way too many weapons.
Yeah.
And there you go, right?
Right.
But then, he's all like, no, like the way he's so chill and understanding, like this guy feels like an Ugnaught Uncle Iroh, practically.
Yeah, it's so great.
And instead of T, it's I have spoken.
I have spoken.
Like
now, when they actually talk and the Jawas, he actually tries to speak in the Jawa tongue, which I like that it's like, based on if you're familiar with the lore and all stuff like that, no one can speak Jawa. Like, Jawa is so stupid hard to speak. Like, so they're just casually being like, yeah, like, Like, this guy, he's lived amongst the Jawas, but then he tries, and he gives, like, some basic things, and they're like, your Jawa is terrible. You sound like a Wookiee. Like, the idea that the Jawas, we get to actually hear, like, not only, like, the way they would, you know, talk back, but also, like, this is their sense of humor. They're just like, ha! Like...
Right. It's the person
at this.
It's the person with the -2 charisma that's like, I'm going to make a persuasion check because just give the stuff back, or maybe an intimidation check, whatever.
Well, I mean, he did fire off the flamethrower.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah.
Do you speak this?
Yeah.
I thought we were getting more fan service and we were going to see torched Jawas in a second. I was just like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, that's another one. Yeah, torching the Jawas and then they run around with their robes on fire.
Because I'm pretty sure this show is like on a certain level of rating, like TV, like PG or what have you, to where they actually couldn't show fully the Quarren getting chopped in half in the first episode. Like they had to kind of make it more of the sound rather than the actual showing
the
of
body part falling away, but not seeing that it had been
like where the incision happened, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think there's certain levels of violence.
It's on the Disney Channel for one, and they want it to be available to as many people as possible. Star Wars. You're right. Yeah.
But yeah, right. I know what you mean. Yeah.
I'm still just gonna be thinking of it as the Disney Channel now.
So we end up going on our little secret mission. I mean, our side mission. Sorry, and it's to let's get an egg of a new species. We are all thinking Krayt Dragon, but of course we obviously forgot about the promo material which showed this thing.
Yes,
and
let's be real,
didn't put two and two together.
It would have been
it would have been impossible for him to do the Krayt Dragon solo.
Yeah, that would have been like okay, grab it and run like hell. And even then, the Krayt Dragon egg would probably have been way too big.
Yeah, the Krayt Dragon egg, I think, would have been something where...
Like, it would have been as big as he was.
Yeah, it would have had to roll it.
Yeah, that just wouldn't have worked.
And it was so muddy, there's no way that was going to happen.
And there would be no way to get away from a Krayt Dragon unless you can fly. So
well, no, just sneak it out. You know, it would have to be a stealthy thing. And then he has all that armor and stuff. So
I mean, traditionally, Krayt Dragons have, can feel tremor sense and all that stuff. But, well, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But no, we made this a little bit more realistic in terms of what he's capable of.
It's a desert rhino.
It's a huge desert kind of yak rhino thing.
Yep. And it's still terrifying. And again, it showcases even more he needs that Beskar armor. Because this thing trashed his armor.
Him. And he also would have loved to probably have all of his heavy weapons as well.
Yeah. Because the way you deal with something like this is you have your ship with you, and then you just sort of pop out the side with one of those repeater guns we saw in the first episode and
just spray and pray basically at that point.
Yeah.
But I like that this was showcasing how, his armor saves his life.
Yep.
He is also not that great of a fighter when it comes to things of this nature here. He doesn't have maybe as much experience with big beasts. In some ways, I'm almost assuming that one of the things that he is actually pretty good at is anti-personnel stuff because of his weapons. Like, most of his weapons seem to be based around just apprehending and tagging and grabbing a target. Like, his best thing, I think that's helped him the most thus far, I think actually is that rifle and his grappling grappling hook of sorts.
Yep.
Like, that rifle has, like, maybe 3 different functions on it. But, he got pretty trashed here. And then the big reveal, which follows the trend of the last episode, which is big reveal with the baby, and in this one, it can use the Force.
Yep.
So,
which is perfect because then it's again the whole thing of you have the not the father figure exactly, but he's caring for this
unlikely protector.
The unlikely protector, exactly.
Yep.
That is caring for essentially the plot MacGuffin person.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a very common, I would say, Western trope.
And it works.
And it works here really well because we are in a world that has a lot of fantastical elements. So you can add up all the drama and the intensity surrounding this thing because we as the fans know how important this is.
Right.
Whereas he as a nobody in the in the galactic terms of things has no idea what this is.
Well, and also it has a great way that it's basically speaking to his own personality in that he is so much a practical, there's things that I understand. I have my weapons and things like that, right? And in the same way that basically the Ugnaught guy showed him that there were different ways to solve a problem.
Sure.
The baby essentially
did the same thing.
Opened his eyes to a whole new world as far as ways to solve problems. It might not be something he has access to himself.
Correct.
Right? But it's something where he's so grounded and rooted in the mundane.
Yeah.
It's now showing him something beyond that.
Something magical, something beyond that.
Yep.
And what's exciting is we, as Star Wars fans, have always wanted more stuff surrounding Yoda's species and what it is and all that.
Yeah.
And there's no, home planet. There's nothing ever that's been canonized. And there's nothing really, even in the EU, that's gone too much into it, because I believe Lucas, at the time, kept trying to shut down anything that would give too much details on it, because he wanted that stuff for himself, I think.
Yeah.
Was that whenever it was to happen, which might have happened in the sequel trilogy and under his kind of view of things, we will never know. But now that we have this, I think we can logically kind of assume that all members of the species are Force sensitive, because this was a natural thing that wasn't taught, I'm guessing. The whole theme, though, of Force sensitive babies within the Empire thing, though, does tie into some stuff that they were using in Rebels quite a bit.
Okay.
And that was something that the Empire had as one of its goals of the Inquisitors. So this is bringing
Force-sensitive
children. To find
Force
sensitive children.
They could train up to be other Inquisitors or whatever,
or
potentially
just to have. That's a very valuable thing to have in your hands versus anyone else's hands, for one.
Yeah, just collection.
But also, who knows? So a lot of
Inquisitors could be the least of your worries if
in that regard. Yeah. There's a lot of things that are exciting about the Empire, given that they are probably the faction in the galaxy that has the most in the know kind of stuff about what's going on in the broader scheme of things in the Outer Rim. I would assume in a lot of ways the remnants of the not the remnants, but like the Rebel Alliance, any kind of groups that are moving towards kind of reestablishing some part of order in the galaxy via help with people like Luke and all that. They're going to be more operating in the inner
Galactic
Rim, the Galactic Center. So things that happen out here in some ways are now going to be in this topsy-turvy situation where the Empire is either there with like maybe a couple ships, or they're nowhere ever near here, and it's like, yay, no Imperials, no nothing. Let's let lawlessness rule.
Which is kind of what it was before. It was pretty much the Wild West, but
there would be the occasional Star Destroyer that would come by and be
this
like
looming shadow of the big hammer, that could come down at any time. But now, even when the Imperials are there, they're hiding out in a secluded,
they have no military might. This
Yep.
is probably also already at a point where, if we think about how the First Order would have formed, there was probably a grand kind of everyone go this way and wait kind of thing, where most of the military might was localized to some specific system.
Once the head's cut off, everyone who's left is just like, okay, let's
what's
plan
beta?
else.
Where do we go?
Like let's go somewhere else and figure out a plan, maybe.
It's very reminiscent of other stuff in history.
Right, it just makes sense to do that.
Yeah. So in this case, Outer Rim,
Wild West.
Yep. Yeah. And yet we have Imperials specifically looking for a Force-sensitive baby and alive. This is not a like, this is a thing that we need to make sure isn't a problem in the future. This is we want to do tests. We want to
it's one of those
we serve higher ups who potentially serve higher ups.
Right. It's one of those things where it kind of almost shines a new light on when Yoda was like, size matters not. Just lift the X-wing,
Yeah.
Where it's like, easy for you to say. Like even this thing as a baby, it's like, I mean, because that thing was about X-wing sized. It's just like, no big deal. Just now, granted, it did fall asleep for a long time afterwards, but
But also, I want to say that there were two things we learned about the Yoda baby that have nothing to do with its Force-sensitive abilities.
Okay.
We know that it is extremely empathetic.
Yes.
There were multiple times where the Mandalorian was either in pain or in distress. Whenever that happened, the baby would leave its pod and come waddling up to it with a kind of, "Are you okay?"
Now,
like is there anything I can do? And part of it was the Force kind of thing of being like, I'm gonna go and heal that.
Yeah.
Which know that's what it was trying to do, and it's like, hey, go get back in your.
And even in the EU, unless you were talking about like mechanics of a game, like having a force power where force heal, you know, but like in any kind of like narrative sense, healing was considered to be like a very big deal, you know. So yeah, again, this is just
even if it was just closing the wound or what have you,
right, exactly.
It still would be a really big deal.
To the point that at least in the EU, there was a whole sect of basically like Jedi that were dedicated to be trained to be able to be healers. Like, and one thing that I will say, that this is a silly thing, but I would love to see at some point it actually getting out of the pod.
Because like, how does that work?
Because it's so tiny, and like it just sort of like climbing over the edge and then just sort of hanging there and then dropping, you know?
I think part of the problem with that is that they decided, let's have this thing be practical. So we have a little bit of mechanisms in it so it can move, you know, and walk around and such. But it would be a little bit tricky to show that in a practical way without like showing the underside. Like if you notice, we've never seen its legs.
Right, I think we might have seen like its feet, but not its actual
But I don't
legs.
even know if that actually, because it's probably some kind of mechanical thing that actually.
And the fact that it's like baby blanket is basically like a Jedi robe, or it almost is like a little miniature robe or something. And also the fact that this is 50 years old. Here's something to think about. That meant that it would have been 30 years old during the time, or 32 or whatever, during the time of the Old Republic, which means that there's a very strong possibility that it actually has been trained by Jedi.
A very strong possibility that it's been in the presence of Jedi. I don't think they would have done anything more than put it in a younglings like.
Oh, sure, but even that is not insubstantial.
Yes, I agree. That is a great point,
because
I would just point at a lot of the general younglings that we've seen thus far, and most of them aren't babies. Most of them are above the age of 5, I would say.
I think that was just for the case of the actors, because and this is again an extended universe thing, so who knows, whatever, right? Sure. But the idea was that even at the age of 4, you were considered too old to become a Jedi.
Wow, yeah, that's right.
Because Eth Koth was 4, and that was considered like,
yeah, you're right. So yeah, that's a good point. Those younglings could have been younglings for 5 years, basically, at that point.
Right, and they haven't.
They were 15 months old when they were,
Yeah. But I would not be surprised at all if this was something that now where that breaks down, because what I would think then is that this was something that the Jedi had. This baby was being kept somewhere by the Jedi in secret or whatever. And then when the Jedi fell, the Imperials got it. But then why don't they have it now? That could have been something where they lost it, or maybe they weren't able to get it because the Jedi had it somewhere secret or something.
Wait.
But
what makes you think the Imperials had the baby?
There's no foundation for that in the show here. But that if it was something where if this baby was something that was had some connection with the Jedi at some point, it would make sense then that the reason why it is not being cared for by anybody, essentially, right, is because of the downfall of the Jedi.
Yeah, that's probably the main reason why
because Yoda would have a big vested interest in knowing about any others of his people, I would think.
Yeah, that's just why I think there's almost no chance that it was a youngling at any point.
Because it would cause complications, and and it would have been killed and stuff. Yeah, that's true. That is a great point.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why, and I think it makes it more mystical and amazing that it was never trained or in any way, shape, or manner, and that the main thing about it is that it's a Force-sensitive species.
Yep.
Naturally, not only gifted with the Force, in a tremendous way, but also I would say, with a natural amount of empathy, something that would tend them towards the light side of the Force, something that would bring out a lot of goodness, and why someone like Yoda ended up being the Grand Jedi Master of the Jedi Order.
One of the things that I thought was kind of interesting was how you mentioned that No, don't set a bad example for the baby by, when
Yes.
the baby was there watching him as he's disintegrating these Jawas, right?
I did want to bring that up.
Because the whole idea of, the child, especially in these kinds of situations, is the innocence of they haven't seen much of the world yet. But then you have the hardened person who has seen a lot of the world, and then those two things clash, right?
Right. That was the other thing I wanted to bring up that we kind of know about the baby, is that the baby is responding to the stimulus. Basically, it is observing these things, and they took great care to showcase when things were happening, the baby was watching and being like, oh, okay. But even still, there was this very clear, I would say, understanding of, this one is protecting me. This one has now protected me multiple times. I am going to help it so that it doesn't die and that I can be protected. It's just basic survival instincts, but the fact that it is aware enough of that and is then able to act in that regard, like lifting the
murder
rhino thing into the air with the force. I gotta say, that's something else.
Yeah, the decision to do that is almost as, not concerning, but gives as much information as the ability to do it.
Yeah. So that's where we're at. We are now off planet. That little arc of the story is probably over. I don't know if we're ever going to go back there, even though we very much loved our little Ugnaught guy.
Yeah, and
but now we have the cliffhanger of, where's he going?
This is true.
Now, you still think he's taking it and not bringing it? Like, do you still think that he's not taking it back?
Correct. Certainly not right away, because there's something that he doesn't understand here. I think it is very likely that he will take it to the clan and basically...
But that is the same planet where he's dropping it off.
Yes, so... right. So it could be a pit stop before he goes there or whatever, but in addition to the idea of the fact that it's a baby, it has now saved his life. So
saving his life thing, I think, is more valuable than the baby thing. I think the baby thing is what ties him, and he sees his own parallels within that. But I think that the saving his life thing is where it goes a bit beyond just the, well, it's a vulnerable innocent, and he wouldn't probably want to do anything about that. But
it's the Mandalorian honor thing of this thing watched his back, right?
Yeah.
So now is he going to turn it over?
A little Yoda species Mandalorian foundling.
Oh yeah. Yes. Like,
that would be the silliest kind of fan service. But the problem I see here, Jacob, is that this thing, this little kid, is way bigger than him, and this is going to be death to all it follows when it's not in Imperial hands.
Oh yeah, like
because
the clan.
The clan is one that I very much do not want him to bring it back to, because the way these kinds of stories work is that the main character always ends up alone.
Yeah.
Well, and right now, he is not alone, which means that either the thing is going to die, which I don't think is going to happen, or it's that those he brings that thing around are going to be put in mortal danger. And I do not want to see Bigwig, because we know in some ways what's his name from Breaking Bad.
Bill Burr?
No. Oh, yeah, he is technically from Breaking Bad, too. No, I'm talking about Gus.
Oh,
Gus,
yeah.
His character has a squad of death troopers, basically. Like terrifying, like actual people that probably one-on-one could deal with the Mandalorian. And he's going to come with a group of them. And if he comes in knowing, oh, this is where the baby is, and then it becomes Mandalorian clan versus a bunch of those, the Mandalorian clan is the one that's going to suffer. Like, they're the ones that are going to lose.
And here I wanted to just make a wholesome, just positive, funny joke about how it would be a great Mandalorian because it wouldn't need much Beskar. But could you imagine that little guy in a Beskar suit of armor, or even fully grown and 2 foot dead? Or not 2 foot dead, wow. Your force push thing threw me off, but 2 foot tall in a little 2 foot tall Mandalorian suit of armor, force pushing people. That would be great.
Do not do that. That is too much. That is too much. Please don't do that.
Now, from the standpoint of the Mandalorians taking the child in, and then the Imperials coming after it, that is something that I absolutely could see happening, and that would be terrifying. Hopefully, he maybe has some way of disabling the tracker.
Well, it's just a question of whether or not they still have anything that has it there, or like it's even more simple than that. If his ship docks on the planet at any point, all it would take is for them to have one of their people be like, he's back, and then they watch him, and it's like, oh, he's got that pod there,
right?
And then they just intercept him on the way, and they're like, excellent,
you're back. Why haven't we heard from him?
Yeah. Yeah, that in of itself is a huge suspicion there.
Yep.
There's so many problems I see having with him if he goes back to the planet and doesn't immediately go and take it to the Imperials. Which is why in some ways I almost want him to go and take it and bring it back to the Imperials and like haggle his way up.
Well,
and like get some information on like, what are you going to do with this kid? And they're like, oh, no, we're not going to kill it. Don't worry. Like the Pershing guy will come out because he's probably a decent guy. He's probably like, no, don't worry. We're just fascinated by the fact that this individual has, and then Werner Herzog will be like, hey, shut up. And he's like, well,
yeah,
like,
come out, and we promise we won't hurt you, huh?
No. But the thing of him being like, no, I saw it. It moved something with its hand, with its mind, and they'll be like, oh, you saw that? And then all the stormtroopers start raising their weapons or something. That would be cool. Where he gets the Beskar, fights his way out of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Then he's on the run, but he still gets both.
What I would love to see,
but I still think he would bring it back.
What I would love to see is he takes the baby to the Mandalorian clan. Okay, and he talks to them to get advice like, what should I do, right? But the thing is, they still want that Beskar. So he takes the pod. The baby's not in the pod, and instead he's got like, I don't know, thermal detonator or something, And then he basically just here's the thing. In the trailer, we saw stormtrooper helmets on spikes. Or stormtrooper heads, right?
Okay, what does that have to do with anything? He's not the kind of person that would do that. Ever.
Okay. Maybe. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just saying, he could go to storm the place and get the Beskar, because they'll be expecting him to come back, whatever.
Why would they bring it there? Why would they
Because, they're going to pay him,
No,
and he completed the job.
No, they bring payment afterwards. No one's stupid.
Well, but why? But the thing is that in order for it to be a business transaction, he's just going to take their word for it that they have more?
No, they say wait here. We'll bring the Beskar once we've confirmed that you've got it. Then they make a call. The Beskar gets shipped in from across a half a kilometer away at some secret hidden location. No, they're not stupid. There were only 4 stormtroopers there.
Well, okay. I guess
he
that's
could have
just
killed
something.
all of them if the Beskar was there.
I guess that's something where they'll have to establish just how connected these Imperials are.
Yes, they're probably connected.
Which they definitely
That's how they got all the Beskar.
Yeah. Okay. But that's also something that needs to be shown to the audience.
Yes, but
so that's something that is going to happen.
But it's obvious they're connected. We don't need to see that. We know that in order for them to have that Beskar, they had to have gotten that Beskar from someone. The amount of money it would probably sell for on the black market is bigger.
Oh, it's stupid.
This Werner Herzog guy is probably ex-Moff level Imperial. And him being there is probably a big deal. And the only reason why there's probably not a lot of Imperials there is because having a lot of Imperials in one place makes a lot of noise and puts a target on your back, because that's probably where the stormtroopers' heads on spikes comes in. It's basically the bird being given to the Empire, being like, don't come to this planet. We are here, and we won't be ruled by you anymore. So yeah, the Beskar is probably not actually at that location.
Oh, okay.
And if anything, he's probably not. Werner Herzog's character is probably not even one that stays there regularly. He probably was just I will meet there with people for the job. Then he goes onto a transport and leaves.
I will say, though, I would not be surprised if they decided to do something where something happens, right? And the Imperials that are here know about that. Basically, he didn't go through on the deal, right? So then they're going after him. But he's a part of the clan, so then the clan, they all end up killing them, and then the clan is basically a sign of, you come after, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. They put the heads on the spikes, but then the problem is, then the Death Squad comes in, from the higher-ups that are connected to all this.
Okay.
I don't know, that's just something I could see happening.
It feels too barbaric for Mandalorians.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Heads on Spikes feels a bit too barbaric, especially for current day Mandalorians. I would say old day Mandalorians, if they were at war, you know. Oh yeah, they would have no issue kind of doing that thing. But I would say they would not, probably for the sake of the clan, incite extra conflict more than what was needed.
Right.
Which is why he probably didn't go, oh, in the first episode, you have a container of Beskar here, and there's only 4 of you?
Right,
wow,
right.
You're really stupid. Just kills them all.
Yeah.
Walks up to him, grabs him, shoots him in the kneecap, and goes, where's the Beskar?
Right.
Like, that's what would have happened.
Yeah.
That's why he's not stupid.
Well, the heads-on, yes, I agree with that, and that would have been delicious to see. But the heads-on spikes things, I feel like if the Imperials ever go after the clan, then at that point it will be considered a wartime thing.
Sure.
But
okay.
anyways, yeah.
Right. We're set up for a good conflict in choice here.
Indeed.
What is he gonna do? And we'll just have to wait and see. So episode 3, y'all, super hyped for it. If you want to see that episode's reaction right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length reactions there. And all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us and the community there about Star Wars in general, the Mandalorian episodes as they come out, just whatever. Like, also, Jacob's book that he wrote, that's really awesome. Inspired by the Mandalorians.
Yeah, not at all. Basically, my own Mandalorian fan fiction turned into a separate entity. It's called Battle Lines. It's on Amazon in both ebook and hardcover. It's really great. You should check it out. Links in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.